Welcome back to the channel. The technical preview is here, bro. We gotta come on now. We gotta get in here. Make sure to like button, subscribe. I said I was gonna do it, and I'm doing it. And let's get this thing rolling. I got this motherfucking
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny.
4K.
I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup,
Why are you so
PlayStation
loud,
5
Mark?
Pro,
God
and how it
damn.
advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience. When PS5 debuted in 2020, it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed complex gameplay, with character counts reaching into the hundreds and frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second. PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore. Ray tracing allows for dramatic visual improvements, including reflections off of water or glass,
That game ran like
and the
shit.
realism that comes from real-time global illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
See the Spider-Man, that fucking blue in-game cutscene right there
Tempest
is
3D
actually
audio
fire.
tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With
I don't think
audio
anybody
so
actually used
real, you
Tempest
may not
3D
even
audio.
need to see the enemies to know exactly where they are.
I use Dolby Atmos
Finally,
on
the
Xbox.
DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel through your hands what your character is experiencing inside of the game. It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier and the controls less responsive.
See, 30 frames per second is normal for consoles. It's only nowadays. It's only the last fucking, what, 6-7 years that 60 frames on console has became a fucking dream for console players. And that shit is not gonna hold up. That's why games are still coming at 30 frames per second. Nobody's gonna really say that, but that's exactly why. These games are getting way too much for these consoles to push these motherfuckers at 60.
Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run 60 frames per second.
This is a PS4 game, Mark Cerny.
Mainly by reducing the graphical detail until those frame rates can be achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro. We want to give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big 3. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster. Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles, and with the Big 3 involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro.
That's a PS4 game.
It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second.
Yes, it's a PS4 game.
Let's compare this to the fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
Don't stop! We gotta lose.
This goal of delivering almost fidelity-like graphics at performance frame rates has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including Marvel's Spider-Man 2,
I mean, Insomniac is definitely going to do a good job with
and
more
Ratchet
power.
and Clank Rift Apart. We can see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling the power of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5. For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet and Clank. Distant details are much clearer.
So the
And
fucking
here,
Digital
we can
Foundry
see
video?
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural cars. So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased sharpness to the graphics or smoother and more responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value. As you
See, I see what they're trying to say. I see what Mark Cerny's trying to say when it comes to the PS5 Pro. But do he not know what these developers are doing? Does he? Because I mean, he's showing PlayStation 5 developers. I know they're going to use this shit, but like the basic developer, every basic developer out there, AAA, AA, whoever you want, indie, they're going to ignore all of this shit except the GPU part. Except the GPU part. They're going to ignore all of this shit. Because why you think fucking Xbox Series X and S is having so many problems? Because all the tech they packed into that console, they ignore all of it. They have their own advanced ray tracing. You know what they're going to use? They're going to use the Unreal Engine Lumen and Nanite. That's what they're going to use. It's going to be heavy as fuck, and the games are not going to benefit from PlayStation 5 Pro's advanced ray tracing. Their AI-driven technology, PSSR. Nigga, these games are getting built on a PC that has an NVIDIA tech and AMD tech. They're not about to use PlayStations. They're about to use FSR on a PS5, and they're going to ignore the fuck out of PlayStation's own freaking upscaling technology. That is exactly what's going to happen. So they just put out an Xbox Series X to the Xbox Series S, which is the PS5 Pro to the PS5, because they're going to ignore all of this and make the PS5 version. The PS5 Pro version is probably going to run that motherfucker the same, but in performance mode.
You've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add pixel detail and boost frame rate. But there are as many approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West. Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing for improvements to lighting and visual effects.
Yeah, but nobody wanted this game.
As well
Nobody
as to
wants
the
to play
hair
this
and
game.
the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Jorv's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when the games are focused on higher frame rates. The faster hardware in PS5 Pro can make a real difference. Allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray-traced reflections between the cars in gameplay, while continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second. That boost in ray tracing is also delivering big wins for Hogwarts Legacy, allowing not only for better reflections and a greater variety of reflective surfaces, but also for further realism in the
See,
casting
it could be
of
compression, but
shadows.
those reflections looked at hot garbage.
I hope you've enjoyed this run-through of the technology behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
You'll never break a legend.
The three fins, so that picture was right. The gills, it's a fucking fish now. Spider-Man always looks good. Even in fucking fidelity mode, it looks good. Those plants look like shit, but it's Square Enix. Their character models look hella good though.
Close your eyes. It'll be worth it.
Okay.
Demon Souls looked up fucking amazing. Everybody know Demon Souls, but it's a PS3 game.
What is this? What's with all the neon?
Vertical stance so separately. Hold the fuck on. 700. Taxes included? Are you sure? Are you sure? Taxes included. Or are you sure? Because vertical stance so separately, that motherfucker don't got a disc drive. Nigga, it's only one model. They said there was a model that had a disc drive. That was a lie. DualSense is still the same. DualSense is still the same. The fucking the shark gills. The shark gills is coming out for $700. Vertical stand sold separately. No disc drive for your most powerful PlayStation. So nobody's gonna upgrade to this that bought a PS5 with a disc drive. Nobody's gonna upgrade to this. Cerny, I think you got lost in the sauce, buddy. I really think. Oh, they unfucked up, nigga. This is bad. This is bad. See, this is bad for a multiple of reasons. One is that people complain about the Xbox Series X not using its full power. People complain about that shit all the time. What do you think the PS5 Pro owners are gonna fucking do when the PS5 is getting in the PS5 Pro is getting the same version, just a little better, not using the full power? They showed Dragon's Dogma in that little montage. They showed a little bit of Dragon's Dogma 2 in that little montage. Dragon's Dogma isn't gonna use none of that PlayStation tech because they're using the Red engine. And they using their own ray tracing. They're using their own everything. That's why they didn't have a performance mode when the game launched. The game was just running. It was just running raw. So, this is not the time and place. And that motherfucker come on November 7th this year, bro. That motherfucker's done. It's ready. Didn't they just drop the Slim last year? God damn, Sony is pushing out hardware, bro. They're pushing out hardware, and this shit is falling on deaf ears. Because not a single gamer is gonna be like, yeah, bro, this $700 is definitely worth it. That $700 is not worth it, and that's just American. Look at this 800. Look at that 800 right there. This, oh my goodness, this is astronomically bad, bro. Astronomically bad. But I kind of see what they wanted to do with the PS5 Pro. They just wanted an Xbox Series X version of their PS5. It makes sense. It makes sense. Microsoft did that. And the devs ignored the fuck out of the tech. And they just used the GPU and the CPU. That is all they're using in the Xbox. That's all they're using in the PlayStation 5. That's why the PlayStation 5, some version of the games are just running good. Because all they're using is the GPU and the CPU and the SSD. That's all. Everything else, to hell with it, nigga. So when the Xbox is going through that shit, I know the PS5 is gonna go through that shit. The PS5 is gonna go through that shit too. And that's crazy work. That is crazy work. But I mean, at least the games are gonna look a little bit better, run a little bit better. That's all people kind of really care about. But that ray tracing and that PSSR is definitely getting ignored. It's definitely getting ignored, buddy. And if it doesn't, then that's gonna show real favoritism to the PlayStation over the Xbox, because Xbox has how much tech in there that they don't use. They ignore all of it. So who knows, bro? We gonna see how this ends up in 2 months. I mean, so make sure that like button, subscribe. They gotta send Xbox some of these. So Xbox developers can start making games for the PS5 Pro. That means Xbox probably already knew about the PS5 Pro, and they just like, yeah, bro, this motherfucker's kind of nice. Who's gonna actually be buying this, bro? I'm gonna have to see it, but I'll see y'all in the next one.